Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier and I speak and train about the use of social media for recruitment. I am, of course, joined by the fabulous Audra Knight, who is a self-confessed employer branding nerd, which I can never say any week. This week, we're super excited to be talking candidate experience with Steve Usher, who is the founder of Copla. So thank you so much for joining us this week, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Steve, can you let us know about your company, what you guys do, how long you've been around? I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. So Copla's been around for just over a year now. So we had our first anniversary in February. My background before Copla was mainly in agency recruitment. So I was a recruitment business owner for 16, 17 years. And I guess I decided to change my direction and start to work more directly with in-house recruitment teams. And one of my passions and one of the things that I had observed over the years was basically, I guess there was a consistency across any size of business, any vertical sector, and lots of organizations that I work with or we worked with as a business. There was a real consistency of poor practice around candidate experience and candidate management. And, having thought about, okay, what is it we want to do and where's our focus and where we believe there's some value to be had in the industry from an employer point of view, we decided to focus all of our efforts around candidate experience and helping organizations really kind of, I guess, quantify and really understand the impact of candidate experience.
So, why does it matter? Why do we care? Aren't there enough candidates out there?
There's lots
huge
of candidates.
Sarcasm coming out of my mouth, but yeah.
I love it. Good start. We should care because at the talent, I don't know if you remember at the talent conference over in Talent Connect conference in the US last year, there was a guy called Zvi Goldfarb, I think his name was, who was the guy's true name. And he presented, he came from L'Oreal, and the presentation they put out, which was amazing, all that, some of the stuff about emoji and stuff. But at the end, and if you remember, he said something that was really interesting. And he said, customer, employee, candidate, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that struck a chord, but yet in organizations, we tend to silo them very, very differently. We tend to treat them massively differently. So how can organizations start to really translate some of the customer experience type methodologies into now candidate experience?
It just makes such sense, doesn't it? You go and buy a product, and if you can see that the company's looking after its staff, you'll be more inclined to go with that company over another.
Yes.
And see in as well. My thing is always being able to see in. I think we all love to do a quick search on Google and get some results.
Well, I don't know if you guys have come across. I think it was 2011. Google kind of came up with a concept, which kind of, I guess, I've read about and I've researched it, and I think it translates really nicely into candidate experience as well, which is all about the kind of zero moment of truth, the ZMOT type stuff, and that's where.
Tell me more.
No, I will tell more. We'll tell more.
That sounds really quite scary.
Think about us as people and our journey and the way the whole digital landscape has really fragmented things in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think, the retail e-commerce sector is a really great learning ground to say, okay, let's nick some of these ideas and put them into our candidate experience practice. So the whole kind of Google ZMOT thing was about historically, and I'll translate it straight into recruitment. Yeah. We used to have kind of a thing whereby we had a stimulus or a job advert.
Yep.
We would click apply, and that would be our first moment of truth. And we would go through a recruitment process, then we join the business, and that would be our second moment of truth.
Yeah.
So what Google came up with was creating two new kind of additional touch points.
Yeah.
So you have a stimulus, but then rather than apply, we have the zero moment of truth, where our behaviors now have changed, where now we go onto the mobile, we research, we look at Glassdoor, we look at the social streams, we look at career site, we look at all of these different kind of sources of information. And I think it was quoted on Talent Board, I think recent research showed I think people look between 6 and 8 different sources before making a decision on applying. So that zero moment of truth is incredibly important now, just in terms of organizations ensuring that the assets they've got out there and the communication, the brand, how they're conveying themselves are really clear.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Go on.
Because I think, I don't think you're actually talking about Google themselves, though, are you? So,
No.
So hang on, right? So, my gorgeous, snarky Mr. Levy, who I can't wait to hug next week, because we're both speaking in Dallas. So Google is Google. Most companies are. Why is there so much copycatting in candidate experience? But actually, I don't think that's what you were referring to. Just
no, sorry, not to be clear. So the principle of the 0 moment of truth was centered around a principle for consumer,
right?
And how our journey has changed, and that's no different to, I guess, from a candidate point of view as well, just in terms of path.
And interestingly, Steve, Google spoke at the Future Talent Conference I was at on Tuesday, and to be honest, what they're doing isn't that different to what everybody else is doing.
Really?
So I know everyone's like, oh, it's Google. Well, actually, there are plenty of companies that are doing the same, if not better. So it was quite surprising, because I thought, oh, it must be this magic formula, but what they do have is 2 million applications to sift through. So that must be fun.
Wow. Wow. Did they give an indication on how they dealt with that level of
the majority of their HR team is involved in doing that.
Wow. That's a tremendous amount of resource.
Yeah. I can't remember the numbers, because we're here to talk about you anyway.
Yes.
So I'm loving some of my favorite people have turned up in the sub channel. Don't look, it's going to distract you.
No, I'm not. I've got a piece of paper.
I have you.
I have.
That's brilliant. You can't see any heckling. There is no heckling going on. Actually, ask some questions, guys. Come on. Good. So, I mean, I guess my question would be, obviously, what interested me when we were talking and you showed was, how can we measure it? There's so much talk about we must look after the people that are coming through our recruitment process, but how can we measure it?
Yeah. So let's take. Let's look at Google. I think the first, from 2 million applicants. So if just think about, for me, there is just a huge amount of data and insight to be created from those candidates, from people. Forget candidates for a minute. They are people who are touching your brand and organization. So, the best way to go about that is creating a insight or survey process that sits intertwined within the recruitment process. And some of the businesses that we've been talking to and certainly engaging with has been, they've kind of tended to do some kind of survey either on onboarding, and then they've asked what the experience was of the recruitment process. And that's not necessarily wrong. I think you'll get a good insight and some insight within aspect. But thinking about the actual candidate journey itself, and as a candidate, you go through a real kind of roller coaster ride of emotions, and it is. I mean, it's a big move, and we're changing your job. So when you apply, you've got that inquisitiveness. When you actually get before the interview, pre-interview, you're incredibly nervous. Post-interview, you've got maybe a bit of regret. I don't know, and all those kind of emotions that take place. So ideally, what you want to do is capture the insight as the candidate is progressing through the recruitment process, which is short, sharp, little snappy, insight and capturing through surveys, capturing insight as they're progressing through.
So, so Jackie Clayton from Recruiting Tools has asked, what's the best way to send surveys? Mobile, Survey Monkey? Well, obviously, no, it would be Steve Usher's tool. However, I'm sure Jackie will want a demo as well. But my thing when we talked about the tool, I'm sorry, Audra, I keep cutting you off, but is how do you get people to actually reply? But this is both questions are.
Yes. So I think it's intertwined. Yeah. So, again, we're mobile now, and we are absolutely we're addicted to it. So I think absolutely from a supplier point of view, or if you are considering anyone else within the UK in the world to do surveys, Survey Monkey for me. Can I say? I think it's quite very, very clunky. I think the ones that you need to look at need to have really strong UX and are really, really engaging.
UX meaning
user experience and sorry, she said this the other day. So for me, definitely that, and then also ensuring that they are mobile rendered is incredibly important to engagement. And the other thing as well is I think it's also about not just about the actual obviously the actual survey itself, but I think the tone of the language and the way in which you present the content of it has got to be incredibly engaging as well.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, I've got to say, if you look at the industry, how many are actually capturing insight right now? Proportionately, I'd say a very low percentage.
Yeah.
So I think by merely asking the candidate and getting them engaged in it in the first place, I think stands out. If you're saying, hey guys, we want to be best in class, in terms of our candidate experience, but we need your feedback. We know we need to improve, but this is vitally important. Then I think people are going to be more likely to engage and to give that kind of feedback. So I think it's sometimes a little bit of honesty and setting the expectation and being really clear about this is what we want to achieve. So yeah.
I know Jose, who's over the side channel that you can't see because you've got paper over it. He's been. You have to tell me if he's still doing his blab where he's actually getting people in to say what their candidate experience is like at their company, which is so brave.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because most of us won't do that. Steve's got another question. I'm not sure I understand. I'll keep reading it. Going, so, Steve, you speak of a journey, and yet most orgs, the candidate experience seems to be disconnected from the employee experience. Why the bait and switch strategy? Journey, and yet most orgs, the candidate experience seems to be disconnected from the employee experience. Why the bait and switch? I don't understand the question, Steve. Could we have that in English? Can we have less New York and more English, please?
I'm thinking he means like we care so much about the candidates and then they become employees and we just forget all about them.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm just guessing.
I
that
mean,
can happen.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve.
Right. So why bait the switching strategy? Why not have both? I guess.
Right. But he's saying, I guess most companies don't.
No. Well, I think there's only so much you can do, I guess. But, when you're looking at just purely candidate experience, I think the bit for me is not over egging it and not mis-selling, so that the point is which when they join, they're saying, hey, hang on, the packet doesn't represent the contents doesn't represent the packet.
Yeah.
And I think that's where candidate experience comes in as well, is where you start to wrap around your employer brand and your EVP in those communications and start to extract those types of things. You can really learn a great deal from that process as well. So, yeah.
Really cool. Yeah.
For sure. Are you going to do this one, Audra? I feel like I'm talking too much.
Okay, sure. Kasia says, when should you ask your candidates about their experience? I think you kind of touched on this already, but clearly timing might influence the results of the survey, and asking multiple times might impact the experience itself.
Yes.
The best times.
Yeah, so great question. So, okay, so in the questioning, so if you mapped out your candidate journey, and so let's take a real basic one: application, interview feedback. So actually, how well is the feedback presented, if at all? And then you've got second interview, offer acceptance. I think in terms of the best time would be after each one of those, definitely. And then really in terms of the questioning themselves, there tends to be, the way we've designed ours is looking at 3 layers. So you have a consistency through all of this. So there's a real consistency around overall experience, their propensity to recommend to friends and family based on that experience.
Yeah.
So the candidate net promoter score. And then, so once you've got that kind of consistency, and then the big one for me as well is the brand perception change. So actually, based on my experience at this interview process, first stage interview, so the telephone interview, my brand perception change has gone up, stayed the same, or gone down. When I've gone into the assessment centre in my London office compared to my Manchester office, I can see actually there's a real issue going on in London because the brand perception is dropping, which means potentially there's an issue with your assessment centre. So there's those kind of consistencies and nuances. The other 2 kind of layers is centered around the interview process or the touch point you're measuring. So how well did we deliver our interview or assessment center? So that's more process stuff.
Yeah.
And then the final one is I think one of the most important ones is about the people that they engage with within your organization.
Yeah.
And, we've heard it many, many times about the internal battles that resourcing has with hiring managers. Now, genuinely there's an opportunity to quantify the impact of how your hiring managers are actually impacting your experience or indeed brand or however they're delivering. So they're the kind of 3 layers you can structure it, and then you can start to correlate some really nice insight.
Which I think answers the question that just came in.
Oh, God.
I think you've just answered it how do you quantify the qualitative data from a feedback survey? I think you've just answered that. You happened to answer it as the question came in, which is quite cool.
So what we're doing is we're taking, there is, I think, if I'm reading it right from that question as well, there is an element around verbatim comments to say, obviously, any other comment or what, provide us one improvement that you think we should make on this one, say, the interview process. Then there's an analysis tool that we use that scans that for specific words that we can set up, etc., and use it from that perspective. So certainly quantifying the qualitative data, we can do that. The other aspect maybe is that if the candidate wants to be contacted, and then we can then start to deep dive a little bit more into that experience, or grab them out as they're leaving the assessment centre. They might be slightly jaded, depends how long it is, but maybe grab them out. Just do some picking of some candidates and say, would you mind 5 minutes qualitative, and get them face to face? That's another way.
So, but does your tool work if they're not doing an assessment centre though? Because not everyone does that.
No, absolutely. So it's all about touch point. Whatever that touch point is, whether it's a telephone interview, a face to face, and an online tool, whatever it might be, that creates a trigger. That action creates a trigger, and then the trigger is then that we send the respective survey for that touch point and that particular process, part of the process.
Right, got you. Okay.
So that's
a good, really good question.
Question coming. Are you ready?
Oh God! Right. Okay.
Yeah, Donald's at it. Aside from Google, can you give great examples of candidate experience from small and medium-sized organizations, especially those who do not have a consumer brand? Oh, let's put you on the spot.
Okay. Very, very good one. Thanks for that, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Thanks.
Okay.
We're so thrilled with that question. Glad you're not in interviewing today. It's Friday. Be kind. Just buy you enough time to come up with an answer.
I don't know about the ones about not having a consumer brand. I think the ones that I always tend to lean to tend to be those, and there might be some size in the audience on that one, but certainly I think people like Zappos, I think, are incredibly creative in how they engage.
Mike has just gone, don't say the Z word.
Sorry.
No, because no. Small as well.
Small.
They're quite a big company.
I don't. And what I'm actually, Stephen, what I'm hoping to achieve this year, given that we launched officially with the Insight tool last month, is my goal in the UK initially is to create this stuff so we can start to benchmark and actually start to be able to share these things with all other organisations. That's my goal. So, being completely honest and not trying to blab it. That's I
think it's quite hard when you're then talking B2B, because I'm thinking of I'm rattling through my clients, and a lot of them they're not necessarily B2B, they're B2C. So it's kind of it does become quite hard. But there's certainly some great examples. So Sarah Duxbury, who we had on for Fletcher Solicitors, they do amazing stuff and really look after everyone from the moment they apply right through. But again, I mean, they're a solicitor firm, a very chilled solicitor firm, which is quite cool. So,
well, I thought the one, from a financial point of view, I thought one of the ones that I always thought was stand out from a recruiter perspective was the FCA in London. I thought they were just absolutely amazing on how they delivered their service, and particularly around the candidate experience around feedback. And they put an awful lot of resource, because we all know this. I mean, it's pretty standard out there, but the feedback is the detrimental point in most organisations' process. So they create some really, really strong processes, and ultimately actually just put an awful lot of resource to providing feedback for candidates, and providing that really quantified understanding why people weren't successful, so they can rationalise it and they can move on in a really positive way.
But it's also, I think, even just going right back to when someone just submits a CV, they might have taken 2 hours to do that application, and people just don't necessarily believe that.
Yes.
I get stunned when I say it to my clients, and they're like, no, surely they don't. No, they really can.
Especially with cover letters.
Quite normal.
Yes.
Not everyone just pings it over. Steve has written a very long one.
Wait, before we get into Steve's, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So what about the hundreds and hundreds of candidates that are not, qualified, never get to the interview stage? I think that's a big problem where they get a standard email that's like one sentence, sorry, you didn't get the job, piss off. Like, what can we do for them?
So I think like anything, I think it's about adding value. And, you know, at the end of the day, people have taken the time to do a 2-hour application process. And I think that just from a fluffy person to person, thank you very much for taking the time, it could help in terms of adding some value around, you know, you weren't successful, but here's some resource, or here's some value add stuff that we could provide, or here's some helpful tips, or here's these types of aspects that actually could really add some value to you moving forward. It's a difficult one because it's not that personalized. So you can't say, hey, here's some things for interview tips, application for, or here's how to fill out a great application, because it has to be en masse. But certainly, you know, encouraging people to maybe look at CV, or to provide some really helpful hints, or look at particular resources. You know, adding some kind of value, even on a really, really basic level, goes a long way. And I think also on that piece as well, rejecting somebody, or saying reject's probably the wrong word, saying not now, I think is I think the speed of that, I think, you know, providing that feedback and the speed of that feedback, I think is a differentiator between how peeved off people are, and how aggrieved they may or may not be. I think personally, that has
I love that, saying area. Not now, instead of saying good luck and I like that.
Yeah, the other thing, this is taking something from Zappos. Ouch. Was, you know, they did a thing which I thought was really great, which is on their career site. You can, you know, become an insider, and I just thought, okay, that's a really cool idea. You know, let's start pooling, and then let's start creating some specific content to people who want to be insiders. It's not about advertising jobs. Yeah. So it might just be, actually, do you want to become an insider of our business? Do you want to keep in connection with our organization? And I think that's a really strong idea to actually help people, you know, maintain the brand and to deliver, you know, it's positive. It's certainly not, hey, goodbye forever, but it gives an opportunity to keep that connection with candidates, because you never know when another opportunity might come up that may be more suitable. So,
yeah, but I guess, what's going on in the side channel is that, you know, but make sure that you're not lying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, really, if they're just not right for your firm, it should just be.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think everyone just appreciates that acknowledgement, even if it is a rejection.
But that's a real hassle for recruiters to have to sort between. Then they actually have to look at them all. Like, what if there's hundreds?
Oh my God! Imagine that. No, and I understand, and you know, one of the things that was going through my head while Steve was saying that was, they're going to say we don't have the time or we don't have the resource, but where are they going to go? They're going to go straight out into social media. You know, was I pissed off with Uber yesterday? You bet. And was I all over Twitter shouting it to the world to get attention? You bet.
Yes. And actually, what that does, and all that tends to do is when it's going out on things like Glassdoor, or it's going out on social, all that does is then feed the kind of the zero moment of truth again for people who are then researching an organization, and then start to look on Glassdoor, and then start to look at all the other channels. And they can see that actually, okay, it's feeding negativity into that cycle. Yeah. So no, you've got to be. It's got to be uber careful about that. Definitely. Oh, I've just moved at the bottom.
Yeah, I did that. Sorry.
But
yeah, I think that's important.
Definitely.
Should we jump?
So Steve's written a great thing here that everyone that he knocks back gets an invitation to stay in touch with on other platforms.
Great.
Which I think is also great.
Yes.
Rather than necessarily in the ATS or the CRM, but actually, you know, on Twitter or on LinkedIn or somewhere else where you can interact with them.
Definitely. And it'd be interesting to see if that would be worthwhile doing it, which type of account that would be, whether you keep it all into one account or whether you have one specifically because I think the content can maybe be slightly tweaked potentially. I don't know. It depends on the audience you're trying to create. No, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah. That's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think you have to be careful of not being like, you know, no, thank you. Now follow us on Twitter. Follow us on. They're going to be like, don't advertise. You have to just be clever about how you go about that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be the right platform for whatever it is, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, if they're technical, you might want them over there on GitHub chatting away or something, or you know, on Behance because they're designers. It's got to be in the right place.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm not sure what Levy's talking about.
Yeah, me neither.
Follow you on Twitter. Right. Okay. No. Okay. I got what he's saying. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Genuine
Agreed.
point of view. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, you don't look like you're just trying to get followers, and that would
It's
really
like
people
people
a lot worse.
follow live, because otherwise it just side channel probably makes no sense. Which is really cool.
Nice.
So what,
I like it, Steve. One thing I would say as
Yeah.
well on this is, we've talked a lot about kind of the candidate experience aspect.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well is to keep surveying and keep creating the insight even when they've onboarded. So my recommendation would probably be week 1, week 4, 8, 12, or depends on when your promotion periods are. But then to keep asking some of those questions that you did when they were external, so that actually looking at when now they have become staff or part of the team, what start correlating their external viewpoint to actually then becoming an employee. And actually, how are they correlating? Is there a mismatch? For an example, if they say, well, actually, the culture is actually a lot better than I thought when I pre-joining. Well, that could indicate then, okay, what perception have we created through our employer brand? Are we actually shouting enough about it? Or if it's going the other way, could actually mean, okay, this could drive attrition, definitely. But equally as well, are we over pitching, or just it's always a fine balance with these things. Keeping it.
And I know one of the retail stores here has this habit, and I'm sure I've said this on previous blabs, of interviewing their buyers up in the London office and then putting them out in the M4 corridor in a really awful office where they don't want to work, so they leave. But they're not making the correlation. Whereas if they were actually asking them or interviewing them, they'd be like, well, this posh office, and then in reality it wasn't like that. And we were all pigeonholed. So
Steve, did your company also do the surveys for employees, or you guys stop at the hire date?
No. Interestingly enough, there was a conversation this morning that took place for the client, and what we're proposing is that we actually do a full 360 on this. So we're actually going to be taking surveys and insight from the hiring managers. And also what we're going to do, and something that kind of came out of everything's kind of morphing at the moment, so it's all growing, developing. But one of the other things that we were doing was, okay, how about also, so if you've got a team of 20 or 30 recruiters on your internal team, let's survey them as well. Let's understand, from a kind of 3 kind of prong point of view. Your resourcing team is motivated and engaged and understands and has a really good relationship with hiring managers and understands where the business is going. And that's only going to be great for hiring and attracting talent. Then also we start to kind of, get some insight from the hiring managers, just to understand from their perception how things are going and what their view of the world is as well. And we could really correlate some things on a basic level. As an example would be hiring managers saying, I'm not getting the quality of candidates. Resourcing teams saying, I'm not getting enough detail on the jobs from the hiring manager. So you can actually then start to correlate some of those kind of relationships and also some of the quality. And then we measure the candidate, and we can start to really kind of then start to bring and connect some of that data together. So we could actually, from a resourcing perspective, you could not only look at on a consistent basis, look at your overall scoring, but you could then drill down on an individual resourcing level to say, out of my 20 in my resourcing team, how well are they delivering those experiences as well? So you can get really granular on this and create scorecards per resourcer. You can do quite a bit.
But then you'd know where to invest in training and development and all that kind of stuff, and you'd make it even better.
Completely. And that's the beauty of measuring, quantifying candidate experience. I think another call this week with a client, they were kind of saying, a prospective client, sorry, they were kind of saying, they had a perception of things, but actually they hadn't thought about it from a candidate's viewpoint. And once we kind of steered them that way, it was like, right, okay, let's start with there and let's make some real clear judgments. So
it's funny how these big companies do that. So I mean, I was having a debate with somebody on Twitter last night about LinkedIn, and I said they've forgotten who it's the user. It's like the candidate. It's like you're just forgetting the really obvious person here. And you can see what's happening with LinkedIn. No one's using it because they take away all the features. And it's the same with that candidate experience. If you're not looking after people, they'll just go elsewhere. There's enough other job opportunities out there.
There are. And I think, there's lots of stuff, definitely training opportunities, even down to hiring manager, interview training, or, actually, how are they delivering the employer brand? I mean, that's a really big one. Hiring managers they all need training on that because it's fairly new in the realms of marketing. But
No, the question. Sorry,
how are they?
Great question coming.
Oh God, right, okay. Thanks for that. I've lost my trail of thought now.
No. But you were saying about hiring managers with employer branding, and they don't, because they're in their bubble. But this is actually a perfect question to go with that.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hiring managers, that 360 feedback on recruitment processes is valuable for their time, for their retention is not a reason. Okay, so from their perspective, it's understanding and gaining insight, and I'm only doing this because it's new to us at the moment, so I'm only doing it based on my views at the moment. So at the moment, hiring managers, I think it'd be good to gain feedback at the end of the day on how they feel about resourcing, because I think internal resourcing at the moment, some organizations have a really hard time with it because it's about credibility, it's about their delivery of quality, hiring managers want it now, all these things. They don't necessarily really understand what's going on the front line. So I think really kind of measuring and asking hiring managers consistently about their experiences of that resource or internal business partnership, I think could generate lots of value, just in terms of how they feel about it, or in terms of how they can actually improve and provide that feedback. And that could be a process thing, it could be a technology, it could be a training intervention, it could be a variety of aspects.
Good old question.
Yeah,
that was from John. I always forget his name because he's hiding behind a logo.
Yeah.
I need him to sign in on his other Twitter account. So that was John Rose. Good question. I really like that. Nice curveball for you.
Do you help them? Do you help them with the apply process? What, if your clients have like this hour-long or apply process, do you talk to them about that too?
Yeah. So I think that definitely. Were you listening to my calls today? Yeah.
You actually look like you're blushing a bit, like you were actually being. Guilty conscience.
Yeah, I think there's some things that there are some statistics that obviously that are available from I guess a conversion point of view on an ATS from things like that, or certainly from a CV to an application process, etc. So if there's sudden huge drop-offs, if you're doing an online test, then there's something in that where you may need to address that. I think if you ask candidates at the right time, they'll give the feedback as to whether they think it's a sufficient time, or whether it's too long-winded or not, or actually they don't feel it actually aligns to the role they're actually applying for, which sometimes happens. So some organizations tend to do quite a blanket kind of online test for any type of role. That sometimes happens, but certainly it's about asking the right question at the right time. And if you've got 50% of candidates saying it's too long-winded, then you have an opportunity then to build a business case. And something I recommended today was actually, why don't you do some A/B testing? So if you have an online application, why don't you do an A, keep it as it is, and then do a proportion, change some of that and do a B test and see what correlate some of the quality that's coming through, but then see if your completion increases or whatever it might be. So why not? Oh God,
this is awesome. So Stu, I love this. I could just hear him saying this so beautifully as well. Funny thing, many companies do, hey, apply with LinkedIn. Now create an account in our ETS. Spend 15 minutes trying to figure out the interface. Take a sophomoric test. Not heard of that one. And email us your resume. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. That's brilliant. I hope he's talking about that next week.
I love what you do, Katrina, how you actually have them like apply themselves, right? Even on a phone too, but just the point of applying yourself, like so many recruiters don't know how long it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot take credit for that. I stole that from Steve Ehrlich at AIA. I saw him do it, and now I just do it all the time. Whenever I get the opportunity to speak, and I'll certainly be trying next week, I just pick up your phone, apply, and wait to see how long. And I mean, it doesn't matter if they're sending in a silly application, but can you actually apply? How long does it take? Yeah.
Well, I think wasn't there a stat? There was a stat that came out the other week. I think was it only 30% of career sites are mobile responsive. It's just we've got some way to go on that one at the moment.
I know, and I mean, even if you get an email and it's it's a private thing, you're going to use this, aren't you?
Yes.
Blab dog. Just made it in, Audra, just for
There you
you.
go.
So yeah, why don't more companies hire secret appliers to test it out? Yeah, I mean,
Very good.
I
Very good
agree
thinking.
with what Steve's saying, but I
Definitely.
actually think, and I said this when I spoke in San Francisco, go in with your phone to your CEO and say, here, apply for a job. Because if your CEO can't do it, you're going to get the funding you need to sort it out.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like, oh, chung, in the face. Oh, no wonder we can't hire. It's crazy.
It's something I mentioned to Katrina the other week was we were thinking about doing something where we do exactly that, Steve, where we're going to go to market, maybe choose maybe the top, I don't know, FTSE 250 or something, and go and apply. And then our CV is actually saying you've been coplered.
Yeah, love it.
And here's a couple of points of where we think you did.
Good idea.
If you want to know more, come and see us. So yeah, no, it could definitely be a way. Mystery shopping, I think, is there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
There.
Is Jackie still
Great
with us?
idea.
Oh, she's still here. She's just been quiet, which is odd.
Yeah, she's really
Why are you
quiet.
so quiet, Jackie? Join us. You must show Jackie from Recruiting Tools as well, because I think she's editing, not listening. You're not listening. I think she'd be quite interested, because I do think it's really cool what you're doing.
Great.
About making it so easy for people to answer questions, because you text in all sorts, don't you? Listening and doing my job. Oh my goodness, she's amazing.
I wish I could do that.
I know, I need to learn to do that.
And I think one of the things that I think is important to mention as well, anybody that is going to engage on surveys and create insight, and the big thing this year, I don't know if it was probably last year as well as this year, but certainly there's a lot more that I can see out there in the domain, in certainly the content trends at the moment, is talent analytics, and everyone's really going on about that, quite heavily, and I think it's only going to gather pace this year. But certainly, it's all, I think for me as well, is, if you're going to survey, it's great, you're going to get all the data, but then I also think about what do you do with that data, and really ensuring that you're, really deep diving a lot into the data and looking at correlating and making real kind of clear connections between definitely the candidate journey, but also as well storyboarding and actually creating stories from the back of that, so actually people can then start to relate to it within the business, and really have some real thought to your internal stakeholders to say, well, actually this person will probably be slightly more focused around maybe some of the statistical stuff. So when I showed Katrina, she kind of just switched off slightly, because it was really numerical and it was a dashboard. And I was like really proud, and she was like, yeah, it's a dashboard, but for me, visually, the way Katrina is. And I took some learning from that, actually. But
that's just me. I don't do data. But
well, that's the thing.
Yeah, but I'm with Jackie over here, though, that's going, I hate surveys. But your surveys are quick, aren't they?
They are. They're super quick.
They're super quick.
Yeah, really quick. And they're not imposing, and they're not, you won't look at it and go, oh, it's really clunky. It's really, they have to be, and then that's the important thing, have to be engaging, and just super easy. So,
for example, okay, oh yeah, here we go. So define your quick. So for example, before you answer how to define your quick, which I just love, I've had Sky, so like Sky TV, whatever you want to call it, cable, I imagine you call it, Audra, have emailed me, I think 5 times to get my customer feedback, and I'm ignoring them. Wow,
that's a lot. Over what period of time?
2 weeks.
Okay. And was there
unless they're going to reduce my price, I'm really not interested. So, like, I'm one of those. I'm one of your horrible people who won't. I'm with Jackie. I will not answer your questions. So, how are you defining your quick, and how are you standing out?
Yeah. So, I won't say about. I'm not going to do a pitch about us. I'm going to say actually it's about so there's 2 things. I'm going to lose my trail of thought there. Okay, super quick. So this is all about kind of not a great big laborious survey here at the end of the recruitment process. This is about kind of little short bursts and pulses. So for me is no more than 10 questions, 12 questions. Maybe you could push to 15 if you're lucky, but certainly 10 to 12. And oh no,
I'm off at like 4.
You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at how quick.
But the text ones you get in. So Vodafone will text me and go, answer this, and all I have to do is go 1 or 9, and like it takes 3 seconds. I can't be asked.
Yes.
But I think
if I loved the person.
If you really, really wanted a job and you were in that stage where you're trying to get a job, I feel like I'd do whatever service they wanted. It's different than like Sky where you're not getting anything out of it. But you want the job, do what they say.
This is true.
And also, just going back to what I said earlier, this is about framing the why you're doing it, and also framing actually, if you think about what's going on out there right now, there's not that many doing this.
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity to say, hey, listen, we're an employer that prepares to listen. We're an employer that's transparent. And actually, if your culture is transparent and there is a consistency to that, we give feedback. We consistently give feedback as a business, as our managers are tasked to do that, our leaders do that, and therefore we start that early on within the recruitment process. And we're looking for people that aren't scared to give feedback.
Are you ballsy enough to give feedback?
Yeah.
Are you ballsy enough to ask for feedback, actually?
Also, it's anonymous as well. I mean, we don't. I think it'd be very dangerous for us to track and share exactly who's saying what. Yeah. You give a consensus. So no, I think it's short and sharp. Yeah.
I'm just tweeting that.
Uh-oh.
Are you ballsy enough to ask the candidate feedback? ? I've managed to not kill Blab by doing those 30-second videos. I'm quite excited.
Oh, it worked?
Quite good.
Oh, fun.
So good.
Okay. So Steve is saying he'd rather somebody picked up the telephone.
Nice. So
confirming the halo effect. Yeah, good. Yeah, there's a challenge.
Nice. So I think there's two pieces to that. I think there's a resource, which is one.
That's true.
I think also as well, I think research, and I just from my own recent experience, researchers, particularly good quality researchers, are not your resourcing team. Yeah. I think they are trained to ask the right questions and can peel the onion, as it were, to get out the feeling and the thought and all the aspects. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I think it's a great way. It can be combined in the survey process. You could even say, hey, would you like to be contacted in, and particularly, let's just say let's say you have a candidate and you can set these parameters up, say, who is literally a 1 or a 0 in experience, is really peeved off. Yeah. Give them an option if they want to speak to you. Quite brave. But just, you can combine it. You can have some quality and quant stuff going on really easily.
I wonder if someone would tell the truth. So, the reason Glassdoor is so powerful is because it's anonymous.
Yes.
So for all the times I've not had exit interviews as Glassdoor, I can go and bitch off and the interviews is the same.
Yes.
Steve just wrote, you and I would. Yeah. And no, I've been a bit anglicised since I've been living here. Maybe if I move back to Australia, I might be more direct again. But I do think there's a bit of fear of 2 beers and I would. Oh, brilliant. What are you saying, Olivia? Oh, my God.
What's he referring to?
Thinking about the last time I drank beer with him, I'm feeling quite concerned. That was when I had my trek up to Boston, thanks to him, thanks to his help. But I still think there's that fear of what would happen if I am honest. Where's this going to get passed on to? Is it recorded?
Yes.
Is it anonymous?
Yeah, I think, well, that's where the importance of using a third party comes in.
And specifically Copper.
Yes. Yes. I think it's massively, I just think there is a way to do it internally, but I think to build the trust very, very quickly, a third party will extract that far better than anyone else, definitely.
Which is true.
And I think, in fact, Anne Carrigan is actually on here at the moment.
Yes,
who I know very well. And Anne
was. I think the first time Anne's been on our blab, so I'm so excited.
Very good. And Anne would agree because she does a lot of EVP work with clients, and she will go in as a third party and extract a lot of good stuff, but also areas for improvement.
Hey, she's even said hi.
Very
good. Thank you for being on our blab.
So yeah. And then I think the other thing to mention as well, from a candidate experience point of view, is, and this is potentially a nice aspect, is if you have a proportion of your candidates coming from agency, there is an absolute opportunity to measure that and correlate. Actually, okay, so we're getting 50% of candidates from our agency population. How well are they delivering our experience and our brand? How well are they pitching and preparing our candidates? How are our candidates feeling having gone through that? And that's not to get, I guess we can immediately go, we can penalise the agencies, but actually From my own experience, the organisations where we added the most value is the ones where we were a partnership or were very much invited into the business. So we can actually, if you've got a small population of agencies, it will really help identify some of the areas that actually we need to do a bit more work on our relationship and engage with our agencies, make sure they're really clear on our employer brand, particularly if you've just completed a new program. So, you know, it changes, it evolves constantly, and you've got to keep your agencies aligned to that as well. Because don't forget, their touch point is another human being.
Absolutely.
But they're not part of your business. So they could be saying anything, and you want to make sure that there's a consistency and the reputation's being built up early on through that third party.
Because if you're going to use a third party, use them properly.
Yeah, you pay them
Bring them in.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to love it back in the day when I recruited for Colt Telecom. I used to walk the floors. I'd sit in on interviews. I knew the hiring managers, and it was brilliant because I could just ping over a CV or resume, as you call it, Audra, and not even have to worry. Like, there wouldn't even be an interview half the time because they knew I understood them and could give that value. So it's like, if you're going to pay an agent that fee, get them to work for it, get them to partner with you properly. I think it's so important. But I hadn't really thought about the branding point of view, which is
well, you've got the other bit.
Very
So,
true.
well, let's say you outsource to an RPO completely everything, then that's another. I mean, that's another
the resume comment. Sorry, Jackie, and all of the Americans on the call. Black cat.
Love it.
He's really pushy.
Meow has also come through from Steve, which is awesome. I think Blab Dogs is still out. So have you got any final questions, Audra?
No, this was really, really useful. Fantastic. I'm excited. Thank you. I'm excited for all these cool ideas. Yeah,
definitely. And you know, I hope in a year's time we've got you know, more clients. We're capturing far more data. And then start to create some benchmarking, and that's my goal, is to create some really credible benchmarking which we can look at from a vertical point of view or industry. Jim's just joined. Hey, Jim.
It's so late. Just finishing off, Mr. Stroud. We love you, but like, seriously, what is with your timing?
Yes.
So, are you still looking for some people to play and have a try? I mean, I know that Jackie definitely wants a demo, but some like Jose would be an awesome person. Are you still looking for people to have a go?
Yeah. So yes, we are. I've got space for 2 more, and that's it. And then we're going to close the door and then focus on those and get the data.
Okay.
And start to analyze.
Give Levy a demo, because I don't think he's on site at a client at the moment, whereas Jose's in-house. So I'll connect you guys all up as well.
Yeah,
he is. I'm sorry, I've been told he is. So there you go. There's two. But definitely give Jackie a demo as well, because obviously she can give feedback on her thoughts and pass on, etc. She's even put her email address there. Bless her little cotton socks. So, shock horror people.
Yes.
I'm not around next week because I'm speaking in Dallas, so we're not on. Sorry. So yes, we're not. We're taking a week off. But the week after, which actually wraps up well with what you've just been talking about, Steve, we have Jen Davis, which I'm so excited about because she and I seriously do too much naughty heckling. But she's talking about hiring manager whispering. So how to get your hiring manager brought in, which you've also alluded to in this, and it's certainly come up in the questions. So I'm quite excited about that.
Brilliant.
Wow. So
I think I'll join that one and maybe ask about surveying and insight.
Yeah, you can heckle from the side channel.
Yay.
Yeah. So I think I'm getting yay Dallas. So they're all getting excited that I'm in Dallas next week because I'm getting to finally meet Jackie and see Steve and all sorts of stuff. But I'm sorry for our regular viewers that I need to take a week off. But I think I'm speaking about the time we have it on. So.
Yeah.
Cool. But thank you so much for sharing your insight.
Thank you,
Steve. You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem. We'll see you all in a fortnight. Put it in your diary, particularly you, Jim Stroud. Put it in your diary. Take care.
Have a great weekend. Bye. Bye now. Bye.